Karen, bring the tea.
Wait, it's Ross. I'm washing dishes now.
Just stop for a second and bring me some tea quickly. Just do what I tell you.
You are a totally useless wife. Karen, bring me a cup of sweet coffee now.
But I still have a lot of dishes to wash.
You can do that stuff later. Get moving. You're such a bad wife. Now it is my husband, Ross, and my mother-in-law, Carol, who are ordering me to do this and that. Ross is in the living room, fiddling with his phone and acting proud like a king. Carol looked at me harshly and then ate her cake. It seems that Carol took the cake out of the refrigerator by herself, but if she did that, she could have made the coffee by herself as well. But Carol seems to enjoy taking advantage of me. So I guess she wants her daughter-in-law to do everything. I'm Karen, a 30-year-old housewife with a child. I married when I was 25 and had a son. After that, I returned to work. I'm living with Ross, Carol, and my 4-year-old son at my parents' in-laws' house now. The reason I ended up living at my in-laws' house was because Ross was pressuring me to move in with him. Ross told me that Carol had become very depressed after the death of her husband Terry and had lost her appetite. A little at the time, I was certainly concerned and wanted her to eat properly, so I moved in and tried to cheer her up somehow. Although at the beginning, she felt so depressed, after I came she started to become more active and lively. She was like a wild animal that had found her prey, keeping its eyes peeled, plotting what kind of bride bullying she would do next. I was so worried about Carol, but now I feel it is not necessary to do so anymore. Many times when I cooked a meal, it was dumped down the sink without thanks, and she often complained about how I seasoned my cooking. If she wanted to complain like that, I'd rather have her cook by herself, but Carol doesn't seem to want to do any housework.
I want to eat this tasteless stir-fry. That's the way you crack it. I can cook it again from the beginning. This...
Even if you say that, I'm too busy, and I can only cook simple things.
How dare you talk to me like this? You'll make a bad wife. I told you, just cook it again from the beginning.
If you have so much to complain about, why don't you cook it by yourself? Carol. Hey, Carol. I remember you being good at cooking, aren't you?
What are you talking about? Why should I do the housework when you're here? But you're insane.
Well, I'm not as much as you are.
How dare you talk to me like that? You're the fast kitchen one, fly!
When I told her off a little, Carol got angry and her face turned red. When I told her off, Carol got angry and her face turned red. I thought it would raise her blood pressure and not be good for her health if she got that angry, but I decided to let her have it. Then Ross and Carol gradually changed. They seemed to be so arrogant, but suddenly they stopped saying anything, as if they had been declawed. Instead, they began to thoroughly ignore me. Ross, have you taken your lunchbox out yet? I'm going to wash it. Huh, Ross? Carol, please don't leave the rubbish bag of candy you just ate around there. It attracts bugs. Are you listening? They began to completely ignore me. I was exhausted, as if I was dealing with creatures that didn't understand my language. I wondered why I had to live with such people, but I couldn't go through with the divorce, because Brian was still young and I thought he would need a father. 5 years passed in this way. Rennie, Ross and I are 35 years old, and our son Brian, who is 4, is now 9 years old. Carol turned 65 years old. I don't know how much longer I can go on like this. I feel like I'm invisible. It doesn't make any difference if I'm there or not. It's getting kind of ridiculous. But from my way home from work, I was muttering such things to myself. Brian is the only one in the house who will talk to me. If Brian rejects me too, I will become someone who is unnecessary. I was really sad because I felt like I was not needed in this world. I got home and immediately started cooking. I knew everyone would be hungry, so I thought I would cook up some good Chinese food today. I made fried bean curd, fried chicken, and Chinese stir-fry with green peppers. Ross wanted to put mayonnaise on the fried chicken. After all this time of not speaking to me, he suddenly opened his mouth, which meant that he wanted me to grab it from the refrigerator.
Get the mayonnaise.
Yes, here you are, mayonnaise. I took the mayonnaise from the fridge and handed it to him. It had been so long since he had last spoken to me, but he didn't give any compliments or even say thank you. He was just rude and demanding. I am really fed up. Then Carol turned to me, and with a very nasty look on her face, she said, "Go and clean the toilet." "Excuse me? Toilet. You clean it up right now. I'll do it later. Please don't talk like that. It's dirty. Wet. Just like your heart. Thorough. And thou, this wife is driving me crazy. Kara shrieked and went back to her bedroom, leaving her dirty plate of eaten food. I have no idea why she asked me to do that. To tell me to go and clean the toilet while I'm eating? I guess Carol just wanted to be mean to me and say things. But I wonder why she wouldn't think that it was an inappropriate thing to say during a meal. Well, if she was decent enough to think so, she wouldn't have said it in the first place. Ross told me to apologize because Carol got upset with me for talking back to her. Karen, you can't talk to my mother like that. Scares apologize? Oh way. What? I thought you hadn't spoken to me in 5 years, and that's all you could say? Who do you think you are? I'm your husband. So what? Don't talk back to me. Oh, you said you're my husband. If you cared more about me, I would support you more. But you've been ignoring me for so long, haven't you? Why did you ignore me? That's because you were being insubordinate and I wanted to punish you. I see. I don't really care. Hey, where are you going? I don't feel like eating anymore. I'm going back to my room. Thanks a lot. I left my meal and quickly headed to my room after my relationship with Ross had turned cold. I went into my room as our bedrooms were separate. Then I opened my PC and downloaded the divorce papers online. Nowadays, it's convenient to download them online without having to go all the way to the government office. I printed it out immediately, filled out my section, and handed it over to Ross. Here you go. It's Rox. Fill it out. What's this? As you can see, divorce papers. Wait, divorce? Yes. Ross looked panicked, but I was very calm with him. Ross has never thought that there was any way that I would ever divorce him. But I have had enough, and I knew I couldn't live in this in-laws house any longer. Even if I left my in-laws house, I'm not confident that I would have a good relationship with Ross. Because Ross is not trying to change, so I have no confidence that I can go along with this any longer. Why are you suddenly talking about divorce? Something wrong with you? I know you've been abusive and neglectful of me, haven't you? I've had enough, and I don't think there's anything more I can do with you, so I just want this to be over. What? You're going to leave me? I don't like it when you say that. The truth is, Ross was unemployed at the time. He used to work as a company employee, but he was fired after getting in trouble a number of times. He'd looked for a job several times since then, but he'd had already lost the motivation to work. Because of that, I am the one feeding them. As Ross used to say to me, I am the one looking after you and feeding you. That was during my maternity leave, and it was just during my maternity leave. It wasn't that I was unemployed, and yet he was very bossy, talking down to me, and I was angry. It was from my savings that I bought baby clothes and milk, and I really thought Ross didn't care about our child. Ross was so arrogant at the time, but now he's unemployed, and I have to look after him. So that's why he doesn't want me to leave, because Carol does not receive a pension. Her husband Terry was self-employed, but apparently he didn't pay his pension. Perhaps because of this, she did not receive a survivor's pension, and even now at age 65, she still does not receive an old age pension. I heard that Terry said that the pension was a waste of money, but I wonder if he didn't think that he would be in trouble if he didn't receive it as a result of not paying it when he didn't know how it would be in the future. Hey, what are you going to do if you leave us? I will live with Brian. I feel more comfortable that way. I don't approve this. At least give me custody. How can you look after him if you are unemployed? I've been the one supporting this house since you stopped working. But I want Brian to stay with me. Just give me custody. You never cared about Brian much, so don't you dare talk like you do now. While we were arguing, Carol came from the bedroom. I listened to your comments from the beginning. Karen, you are so selfish. Don't you ever think of serving this house? No, I don't. Don't get snarky. How are we supposed to eat without you? Why don't you ask the person you're dating? Carol, and ask him to give you some money. Wait. Look, you're dating Mrs. Williams' husband 3 doors down, right? The Williams couple are very rich, aren't they? They live in a luxurious house, and it seems they have maids. How do you know? I saw you the other day. After that, you even did something nasty. Well, I don't know what to say. Can I show this to Mrs. Williams? I bet she'd be pretty pissed. Stop it. Carol went crazy when I showed her the pictures I had taken with my phone. Carol was actually dating a married man named Mr. William, who is a neighbor. The man is very rich and lives in a luxurious house and has hired a few maids. Mrs. Williams is a very gracious and sophisticated lady. I bet Mrs. Williams would explode if she saw this picture. No matter how humble and mature she is, It would be a different story if her husband and a neighbor's woman were dating. Mrs. Williams is in her 60s, like Carol, but she is very rich, so Carol knew and must have approached her. What kind of person would I be to be told to go clean the toilet while I was eating?
By such a filthy person to go clean the toilet while I was eating.
Well, how did the fastest rise? Carol, you were the one so filthy that talking about cleaning toilets while you eat is okay with you.
Pretty now. I have to tell Mrs. William.
Stop dying just these series. Julia, oh, sorry. Actually, across the cupcake. I bring you, soldier.
What? Well, I know Mrs. Williams' contact information.
Mrs. Williams is a tea ceremony teacher, right? I was invited to tea before, and we exchanged contact information.
Not long after that, Mrs. Williams came. She's a sophisticated old lady with fair skin, worthy of her name. Very. However, her face, which is usually white with a hint of blush on her cheeks, was bright red today. She must have been very angry.
Carol, were you dating my husband?
Oh, but last night! Damn!
Karen told me about you. What a filthy person you are. I demand alimony from you. Do you understand?
Wait, serious missuspicions of yours. She wastes the reason. Grace, I am a pitiful person with no money. I could never pay that. I'm in a mental situation. I'm still furious.
Of course I'm divorcing my husband, but you're also to blame, so you'd better apologize and pay up.
This is Karen's fault. Does she have never said anything? Oh, you mind I hurry up?
Carol scrunched up her face and cried, but Mary never forgave her. I felt a little sorry for Carol, who was lying prostrate in the doorway crying, but I shouldn't feel pity for her now. I knew that if I stayed nice to Carol, she would take advantage of me again and repeat the same mistakes over and over again.
Cheeky bitches? It doesn't matter.
No way.
While we were arguing, Brie intervened. Then she said this.
Karen, you are going to get a divorce now, aren't you?
Yes, because I've been treated so poorly.
Then you better be ready to fight all the way. Your husband, Ross, he's dating our young maid.
What?
Today I saw your husband holding hands with our maid, and then doing weird things on the side of the road.
What the heck?
To my surprise, this idiot husband was having an affair with a maid at Mr. and Mrs. Williams' place. They have a few maids, but Ross had been together with the youngest of them, and he was disgusting with her. I am so mad at Ross for taking advantage of me and ignoring me. So I was just thinking of divorcing him. Then, as if to add insult to injury, he was found to be cheating on me. I thought if this happened, I'm gonna have to crush him to a pulp. He was someone I loved at first, but now he is just a burden to me, and I wouldn't want this kind of father in my child's education. All this time, I've been patient for my son's sake. Why didn't I decide to divorce earlier?
Pate, you're disgusting. I will never forgive you. I'll even charge you alimony for cheating on me.
Wait a minute. I'm unemployed.
So what? You still have savings from which you can pay alimony and child support.
If I did that, I'd be broke. You don't mind if I starve around here?
We're breaking up, so it's none of my business what happens to you.
You're cold-blooded. You're supposed to be my wife.
You've been cold to me all this time. What are you talking about? I don't care. I'm leaving.
I immediately started packing with my son, Brian. I thought, if I stay in this house, I'll be crazy too. So I decided to go back to my parents' house anyway. Ross tried to keep me back, but I don't listen to them anymore because I'm going to get a divorce no matter what they say. In the end, that divorce decree was not served by my ex-husband, Ross, so it got complicated and ended up in divorce proceedings. There, the husband was found liable, and the ex-husband, Ross, had to pay alimony. Of course, I also requested child support, which I managed to get paid in one lump sum. Apparently, he has borrowed money. Then that very mean Carol was charged for alimony by Mr. Williams' wife. Carol has no pension or anything else, so she decided to work part-time to pay off her debt. However, it was very hard for Carol because she hadn't been working for a long time and had been at home doing nothing. I heard she got a job as a cleaner, but she always got scolded by the veteran ladies about her sloppy work. And then it seems she has a second job as a cashier. But since she has never done a cashier job before, she always got sarcastic remarks from young college students who work part-time. I think she learned a lot about how hard it is to work in society because she had never helped her husband with his business and didn't know anything. I went back to my parents' house and lived there for a while, but I heard that there was a very nice apartment available near my office, so I decided to move there. Now I am staying in that apartment with my son Brian. It's very comfortable, and I have nothing to complain about. I asked Brian if he was sad to not be able to see his father, and he said, not at all. I realized that if it was that bad for my son, I should have divorced Ross earlier. But from now on, I will do my best in everything I do so that my son will never be inconvenienced.